The night was cold on planet Virilia 7. Wind howled through the rocky cliffs, and frost climbed the windows of the old human outpost. Inside, Daniel Reed sat by a quiet fire, staring into the flames. He had lived alone for 3 years. No calls. No visits. No war. No peace either. Just silence. Daniel was once a combat engineer in the Earth Colonial Forces. But after his wife died during the war, he left everything behind. Virilia 7 was far enough to forget, or at least pretend to. He took a sip of bitter coffee and leaned back in his chair. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. It wasn't loud. Just one knock. Slow. Heavy. He froze. No one ever came here. Not at this hour. Not on this planet. Another knock. Daniel stood up quietly and walked to the door. His hand hovered over the lock. He checked the scanner. The screen flickered, static covering most of the image. "Damn storms," he muttered. The third knock was louder. He grabbed his sidearm from the table and opened the door just a little. His breath caught in his throat. Standing outside was an alien woman. Her skin was silver, almost glowing under the stormlight. Her eyes were dark violet, filled with something Daniel hadn't seen in a long time. Fear. She was tall, nearly 7 feet, and held 2 small children in her arms. Both were shivering. One of them coughed sharply. "Please," she said, her voice shaking. "I will warm your bed, human. Just don't let my children die." Daniel blinked. He wasn't sure if he heard her right. "What did you say?" he asked. "I have nowhere else to go. They are sick. They will die in this cold." He looked down at the children. Their faces were pale, eyes half closed. One looked human. The other less so. "Are you hurt?" he asked her. "No," she said. "Only tired. And scared." Daniel hesitated. His cabin was built for one. Supplies were tight. And he had spent years avoiding contact with anyone. This wasn't part of the plan. But then the wind howled again. The little one in her left arm whimpered softly. His hand dropped from the doorframe. "Come in," he said, stepping back. She didn't move at first. Then she walked in slowly, careful not to wake the children. Her skin shimmered in the firelight as she passed him. The door closed behind them with a dull thud. She laid the children near the fireplace. Daniel brought a blanket and covered them. They were so small. Too thin. Their breathing was uneven. "What are they?" he asked quietly. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she sat beside them and held their hands gently. "They are my children," she whispered. "Half of me. Half of him." Daniel narrowed his eyes. "You mean, their father was human?" She nodded. Daniel sat down across from her. "Where is he now?" "Dead," she said. "They killed him." "Who?" "Those who believe our bond was wrong. That our children should not exist." Daniel felt a cold knot form in his chest. "What's your name?" he asked. "Shariel." "Daniel," he said. "Daniel Reed." Shariel nodded once. Then silence filled the room, broken only by the crackling fire and the wind outside. He stood up and walked to the window. The scanner still didn't work, but his instincts were awake now. Something wasn't right. He stepped outside for a moment. The wind was sharp, slicing through his coat. He looked around the snowy path near the cabin. Footprints. More than one set. And claw marks. He returned inside and locked the door. Then he pulled the curtains and loaded his rifle. Shariel looked at him with quiet understanding. "They are coming," she said. Daniel nodded. "How many?" "3. Maybe more. I ran faster than them. But not far enough." Daniel looked at the children. One had started shivering again. He turned to her. "Do they have names?" "Yes," she said softly. "This is Nara. The little one is Keel." "Nara. Keel," Daniel repeated. He knelt near them and checked their temperatures. They were burning up. "I have medicine." Not much, but it might help, he said. Shariel gave a tired smile. Thank you. He returned with a small vial of antibiotics. Carefully, he injected both children. They whimpered but did not wake. Outside, the wind began to shift. A different kind of howl echoed from the forest. Not the wind. Not an animal. Something else. Daniel stood up again. He looked at Shariel. You'll stay here, he said. You and the kids. I'll keep you safe. She looked at him, surprised. You don't even know us, she whispered. He picked up his rifle and looked toward the window. I don't need to, he said. Not yet. The storm raged on. But inside the cabin, a fire burned brighter. And a promise had begun to form. Daniel didn't sleep that night. He sat near the door, rifle resting across his knees, eyes fixed on the shadows beyond the window. Shariel had fallen asleep with the children, curled around them like a shield. Her silver skin reflected the firelight. Her breath was slow, controlled, but not peaceful. She was still afraid. Every crack outside made Daniel grip the rifle tighter. But no one came. When morning light touched the frozen glass, Daniel stood and stretched. His muscles ached, but his mind was sharper than it had been in years. The children stirred first. Nara opened her eyes and sat up. She looked around, confused at first. Then she saw Daniel. She blinked. You're the human, she said softly. Daniel gave a small nod. And you're the brave one. She glanced at her brother. Keel is still sick. I gave him something, Daniel said. It should help. Shariel woke to the sound of her daughter's voice. She sat up quickly, checking both children with the gentle panic only a mother knows. When she saw they were safe, her shoulders dropped. Daniel handed her a cup of hot broth. You need to eat something, he said. She took the cup, but didn't drink yet. Her eyes stayed on him. You could have left us outside, she said. You didn't. Daniel didn't answer right away. He sat across from her and poked at the fire with a metal rod. My wife, she would have helped you. Shariel tilted her head. She died? She asked. Daniel nodded. During the evacuation of Tari's 9. She went back for a wounded child. Didn't make it out. Shariel lowered her eyes. I'm sorry. Silence hung between them for a few moments. Then Daniel spoke again. What happened to you? To their father? She set the cup down. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned with memory. His name was Captain Eli Vorn. A human soldier. He saved me from a transport crash during the war. He was sent to destroy my village, she continued. But he didn't. He stayed. He learned our ways. And he fell in love with me. Daniel watched her closely. You married him? Our kind do not marry as humans do. But yes. We were bound. And these two? They were born after the war ended. We lived hidden. Far from both your people and mine. Why? Because either side wanted them to exist. Daniel's chest tightened. They're children, he said. Innocent. Shariel nodded. But they are proof. Proof that our species can mix. That we can live together. Not everyone wants that proof to survive. Daniel stood up and walked to the kitchen. He needed space. He needed time to think. He poured himself a cup of water and stared at the old photo on the wall. His wife smiled back at him. Brave. Strong. Full of life. He closed his eyes. She would have helped them too. Behind him, the cabin scanner beeped twice. Weak signal. But something was coming through. Daniel pressed a button. The screen lit up with static. Then cleared for a second. A shape. Humanid. Moving through the snow. Not alone. 3 life forms. Maybe 4. He turned back to Shariel. Did anyone follow you? He asked. She stood up slowly. Yes. Who are they? Hunters. Paid by both sides. Some want the children dead. Others want to study them. Daniel loaded his rifle again. How long do we have? Less than a day. Maybe hours. He looked at the children. Keel was still asleep. Nara watched them both, clutching her mother's scarf. We need to move, Daniel said. Where? She asked. I have a supply station 2 miles west. Built into the cliffs. Harder to track there. Shariel nodded. She lifted Keel carefully. Daniel picked up the emergency pack. As they stepped outside, the cold hit them like a wall. Snow had fallen thick overnight. It would slow them down. But it might also cover their tracks. They began to walk. Half an hour later, Daniel heard something behind them. A branch cracked. Then another. He turned sharply. Nothing. They kept walking. 50 more steps. Then Nara whispered, Mother! I hear growling. Daniel raised his rifle. Behind them, in the trees, a dark shape moved fast through the snow. Too fast. Shariel gripped his arm. Run! They ran. Through the cold. Through the trees. Through the silence that was about to break. The forest roared behind them. Daniel gripped his rifle tighter and pushed forward through the deep snow. The wind burned his face. Branches clawed at his coat, but he didn't stop. Shariel ran beside him, holding Keel close to her chest. Nara struggled to keep up. Daniel turned and lifted her into his arms. Hold on tight, he said. Nara nodded, wrapping her arms around his neck. Behind them, the sound grew louder. Heavy footsteps. Snarling breath. Whatever followed them wasn't just tracking. It was hunting. The supply station wasn't far now. It was hidden in a rock formation, shielded by old camouflage tech. Few knew it existed. Daniel had built it after the war. A place to escape, if the nightmares ever became real. Now they had. They reached the cliff edge. Daniel pressed his hand to the scanner hidden under a layer of frost. A green light blinked once. Then a door slid open from the rock face. In, he said quickly. Shariel stepped inside. Daniel followed and shut the door behind them. It sealed with a hiss. Inside, it was warmer. The lights flickered on, revealing a narrow hallway lined with crates and tools. The air smelled of old oil and metal. Daniel set Nara down and dropped to one knee, catching his breath. Shariel leaned against the wall, eyes closed. Her silver skin was marked with scratches, but she said nothing. Keel whimpered in her arms. Daniel looked at them. He was starting to feel something he hadn't felt in a long time. Responsibility. He walked to the med station and grabbed what supplies he could. Antibiotics, bandages, energy bars. He handed one to Nara, who took it with shaking hands. Keel was burning up again. Daniel scanned him. The readings were strange. His blood pressure was high, but not dangerously. His heart rate, however, was faster than human average. Too fast. What is this? Daniel muttered. Shariel sat down beside him. They're changing, she said softly. What do you mean? They are not fully human. And not fully me. Their bodies are trying to balance both sides. Sometimes it makes them sick. Daniel looked at her. Is there a cure? Shariel shook her head. No cure. Only time. And safety. Their father believed they would grow stronger, but the process is painful. Daniel stared at Keel's face. The boy was sweating, murmuring something in a language Daniel didn't understand. What is he saying? Shariel placed her hand gently on the child's forehead. He dreams of his father. Daniel stood and walked to the back of the room. There, he opened a locker. Inside were old belongings. A folded uniform. A photograph. A date pad. He picked up the pad and turned it on. His wife's face appeared on the screen. For a moment he didn't move. Then he played the last video she had sent him before her death. If you're seeing this, it means I didn't make it, her voice said. But don't shut yourself away. Don't become a ghost. Help someone, Daniel. Even if it hurts. He closed the pad slowly and returned to the others. Nara had fallen asleep, curled under a blanket. Keel was breathing easier now. Shariel watched Daniel carefully. "Why are you helping us?" she asked. Daniel didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Because I remember what it's like to lose everything." Shariel looked down. "My people hated him for loving me. Your people hated him for staying with me. He died trying to protect both sides." Daniel leaned against the wall. "What was his name again?" "Captain Eli Vorn," she said. Daniel's eyes narrowed. "I knew him. A little. He trained at the same outpost I did. Always said peace mattered more than orders." Shariel smiled faintly. "He said you were the only other soldier who cared." Daniel blinked. Did he ever send you messages? Logs?" Shariel opened a small pouch tied to her belt. She took out a thin black chip and handed it to him. This was the last one. He said to give it to someone who still had a heart. Daniel inserted the chip into the supply station screen. The monitor lit up. Eli's face appeared. Tired. Dirty. But smiling. "If you're watching this, I'm probably gone. My kids, they're different. Not a mistake. A chance. They'll save lives one day. But they won't survive unless someone helps. So I'm asking you, whoever you are, please. Keep them safe. For me. For her. For peace." The message ended. Daniel stared at the screen. His throat tightened. Shariel stepped closer. "I don't expect you to fix this. But you're the only one who hasn't tried to kill us." Daniel looked at her. "You're wrong," he said. Her eyes widened slightly. "I'm not the only one. Your husband didn't either." They stood in silence for a while. Then the station's alarm rang out. Motion detected. Outside. Less than 100 meters away. Daniel checked the scanner. 5 lifeforms. Moving fast. He picked up his rifle and turned to Shariel. "They found us." Shariel lifted Keel in her arms. "We can't run again." "No," Daniel said. "This time, we fight." The outer door groaned as pressure locks hissed. A cold red light blinked above the steel frame. Daniel stared at it, gripping his rifle with both hands. "They're bypassing the system," he said. "Someone knows the access code." Shariel stepped back, shielding both children with her body. Nara held Keel's hand tightly. The boy was awake now, eyes burning with a faint golden glow. Daniel pointed to the storage room. "Hide there. Don't come out unless I say." Shariel hesitated. Daniel's voice turned sharp. "Go. Now." She nodded and rushed the children into the back. As the heavy door sealed behind them, Daniel turned toward the main entrance. The station lights flickered. Then they died. Darkness. Only the sound of the lock turning remained. Slow. Final. Daniel took a deep breath and aimed his weapon. The door slid open. A tall figure stepped inside, wearing dark armor and a breathing mask. Behind him came 4 more. Bounty hunters. Their armor was mismatched, old, and marked with paint. But their weapons were new. Deadly. One of them stepped forward and spoke through a voice filter. "Step aside, human. We only want the children." Daniel didn't flinch. "You picked the wrong cabin." Another hunter aimed at him. "He's bluffing. Just kill him." Daniel fired first. The shot hit the speaker in the shoulder. He crashed against the wall, groaning. The others spread out, weapons ready. Daniel ducked behind the control console and reloaded. Sparks flew as bullets hit the metal around him. Then a hunter rushed forward, slamming Daniel to the ground. The rifle slid away. The man pressed a blade to his neck. "You should have stayed out of this." Daniel kicked upward, knocking the attacker back. He grabbed a wrench and struck hard. Bone cracked. The hunter dropped. Another one grabbed Daniel from behind, dragging him toward the wall. But suddenly, a blast of light exploded from the hallway. The attacker screamed and fell, clutching his head. Shariel stood in the doorway, her eyes glowing white. Her hands sparked with alien energy. "Stay away from them," she said. The last hunter hesitated. Shario raised her hand. A pulse of force hit the floor, shaking the walls. Daniel picked up his rifle and stood. "Let's finish this." Together they fought. Shario moved like lightning, her energy cutting through the air. Daniel backed her up, firing with deadly aim. Within minutes the attackers were down. Some groaned. Others didn't move at all. Breathing heavily, Daniel checked the bodies. Then he turned to Shario. "What was that?" She looked tired. Pale. "My body reacts to danger. It was not always this strong. But something changed after I gave birth." Daniel stepped back. "Your children, can they do this too?" Shario nodded slowly. "Eventually. But if they are taken, their power will be used to make weapons. That's why they must stay hidden." Daniel walked to the back room and opened the door. Keel looked up. His eyes still glowed faintly. Nara was beside him, holding a scanner she had pulled from the wall. "I fixed it," she said proudly. "It was broken." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "You did?" She nodded. "She's gifted," Shario said softly. "So was her father." Daniel motioned them out. "We're not safe here anymore. If these bounty hunters had access codes, someone powerful is tracking you." Shario looked down. "There's something you need to see." She reached into her bag and pulled out a thin crystal tube. Inside it was a small amount of blood, glowing faintly. "This is from Keel," she said. "His blood holds something new. A protein we've never seen before." Daniel studied it. "What does it do?" Shario looked at her son. "His father said it could rewrite genetic damage, heal sickness, even reverse aging. It's not magic. It's science we don't fully understand." Daniel felt a chill run through him. "People would kill for this." "They already are," she whispered. "They call it the Genesis thread. And it only exists in our children." Daniel turned back to the scanner Nara had fixed. He entered a code and sent a ping to an old contact. Name, Rix Talon. Former smuggler. Now a ghost. The reply came within seconds. "Daniel? Thought you were dead." "I need extraction," Daniel said. "Off-world." There was a pause. "You in trouble?" Daniel looked at Shario. Then at the children. "Yeah. The kind that can save the galaxy or destroy it." Another pause. Then Rix replied. "Meet me at point 17. Docking Bay 49. 2 days. Don't bring trouble." Daniel turned off the signal and grabbed a new energy core for his rifle. "We have 2 days," he said. "Then we're gone." Shario stared at the blood tube, still glowing in her hand. "No," she said. "We have 2 days to save our children from becoming weapons." Daniel nodded. And this time, he didn't argue. Snow fell heavier the next morning. Daniel stood at the edge of the cliffs, scanning the horizon with cold eyes. His coat flapped in the wind. Behind him, Shario was strapping supplies onto a sled. They were ready to move. But danger was already closing in. Inside the cave, Nara sat beside her brother. She whispered stories into his ear, trying to keep him calm. Keel's fever had returned. His eyes glowed faintly, and small sparks flickered between his fingers. He was changing again. Daniel stepped back into the shelter and pulled out a folded map. "We'll cut through the ice flats. Less cover, but it's faster. If we stay in the trees, they'll trap us." Shario nodded. Her face was calm, but her voice betrayed her worry. "He's getting worse." Daniel looked at Keel. The boy was sweating, body trembling under the blanket. "We'll get him to the smuggler," Daniel said. "Then off-world. After that, Earth. Maybe." Shario didn't speak. The children were too quiet now. And that silence meant fear. As they packed the last of their gear, the scanner beeped. Motion. 12 life forms. Surrounding their location. Daniel froze. "They're here." He grabbed his rifle and opened the outer hatch. Snow burst in. Wind screamed like a warning. Far down the hill, dark shapes moved between the trees. More bounty hunters. But this time, they weren't alone. One of them was massive. Taller than the others. Heavily armored. His helmet bore a red mark across the visor. Daniel narrowed his eyes. I know that armor. Shariel looked out. Who is it? Daniel's jaw tightened. His name is Havex. He hunts children. He turned to Nara and knelt beside her. You stay close to your mother. Don't look back. Don't speak. Just run when I say. Nara nodded slowly. Keel shivered in her lap. Shariel touched Daniel's arm. We can't outrun them this time. I'm not planning to. He stepped outside and whistled sharply. A small metal drone flew out from the cliff wall and hovered above them. Target locked, the drone said. Daniel pointed to the tree line. Mark the lead. Delay the others. Confirmed. The drone shot forward. A second later, an explosion lit up the hill. Fire burst through the trees. The bounty hunters scattered, shouting. Daniel grabbed the sled, threw Keel onto the back, and pushed it down the slope. Go now! Shariel ran, pulling Nara behind her. The sled slid fast through the snow, bouncing over hidden rocks. Gunfire echoed from behind. Daniel ran last, turning back every few seconds to fire. He hit 1, 2. But then Havex stepped into the open. His armor absorbed the shots like pebbles. He raised a massive cannon and fired. The blast hit the ground near Daniel, throwing him through the air. He landed hard. Snow flew around him. His side screamed with pain, but he got up. Havex marched forward. You should have stayed dead, he said through the mask. Daniel spat blood and raised his rifle again. I'm not done yet. The two clashed. Daniel dodged the first strike, fired twice, then ducked behind a tree. Havex smashed the trunk with a single blow, splintering it into pieces. Daniel rolled and fired again, hitting the bounty hunter's leg joint. Sparks flew. Havex stumbled. Daniel grabbed a pulse grenade and threw it. The blast lit up the sky. Then silence. Daniel crawled away, gasping for air. Down the hill, Shariel reached the frozen flats. The sled had stopped. Keel was unconscious. Nara looked back. Where is Daniel? Shariel didn't answer. The wind howled louder now. Then she saw him. Limping down the slope, face bloody, eyes locked on her. He made it halfway. Then Havex appeared again, armor scorched but still intact. Shariel stepped in front of her children. She raised her hands. Her energy flared again. Havex raised his cannon. You can't win, he growled. Shariel's voice was calm. No. But I can stop you. The ground cracked beneath her. A surge of light exploded outward. The blast sent Havex flying into the ice, armor dented. But it drained her. She collapsed to her knees. Daniel caught up, breathing hard. He picked her up. You can't leave now, he said. Shariel looked at her children. I won't. Together, they pushed forward. Behind them, Havex stirred again. Broken, but not dead. The ship was old, rusted, and barely flew. But it was all they had. Daniel tightened the straps around Keel's small body and checked the oxygen readings again. The boy's condition had worsened. His skin glowed faintly, and his breathing was shallow. Nara sat beside her brother, clutching his hand. Her lips trembled, but she stayed silent. Shariel stood near the control panel, watching the stars blink outside the window. Her arms were wrapped around herself, and her eyes were distant. Daniel walked up behind her. We're clear of the planet's gravity, he said. We should reach Rix's rendezvous point in a few hours. Shariel didn't answer right away. Then she said, They'll follow us. They always do. Daniel nodded. I know. He sat in the pilot's seat and glanced at the long-range radar. Nothing yet. But he didn't trust silence. He never had. Behind them, the ship's core hummed unevenly. Shariel finally turned to him. Do you believe in fate? Daniel raised an eyebrow. No. I believe in survival. She gave a faint smile. Eli did. He believed our children would change the future. Not with power, but with proof. Proof of what? Daniel asked. That we are not enemies. That life can grow from pain. That peace is possible. Daniel didn't respond. He stared ahead as the stars drifted past, endless and cold. For a while, no one spoke. Then the alarm sounded. Warning. Incoming object. Daniel checked the screen. A massive vessel had entered their path. Dark, silent, and fast. Ship class unknown, the system said. But origin matches Earth military patterns. Shariel stepped forward. They found us. Daniel locked the course and activated the shields. It's not just a military ship, he said. It's one of theirs. Shariel's voice was flat. The Black Fleet. The ship on the radar was 3 times their size. No lights. No signal. Just a predator in space. They're not here to capture, Daniel said. They're here to erase. Nara hugged her brother tighter. What do we do now? Daniel adjusted the flight path. We run. The smuggler's coordinates were locked. Docking Bay 49. A station hidden inside an asteroid belt. It was their only chance. The Black Fleet ship moved closer. It didn't fire yet, but its silence was worse than gunfire. Hold on, Daniel said. He pushed the throttle. The ship shook as they entered the belt. Rocks the size of houses spun past them. Some crashed into each other, shattering into sparks. Daniel weaved through the debris, keeping the ship low and fast. Behind them, the Black Fleet opened fire. The first blast missed. The second hit the rear engine. Sparks burst inside the cockpit. The ship tilted violently. Keel cried out. Daniel gritted his teeth and corrected the course. Just a little farther, he whispered. Brace for impact, the system said. A giant rock spun toward them. Daniel pulled up. Too slow. The ship scraped the asteroid and spun into a drift. Metal groaned. Alarm screamed. But in the distance, a light appeared. Docking Bay 49. A large gate opened from inside the asteroid. Yellow lights blinked around its edges. Daniel pushed the final burst of energy into the engine. The ship shot forward, just as a second blast from the Black Fleet tore through space behind them. The old ship slid through the docking gate. Inside, the station sealed shut. They made it. Barely. Inside the bay, the ship landed hard. Smoke filled the air. Systems went dark. Daniel coughed and unbuckled himself. He rushed to the back and checked on the children. Nara was shaken, but alive. Keel was barely breathing. Shariel touched his face, and her hands began to glow. I can slow it down, she whispered. But not much longer. Daniel opened the hatch. A tall man with gray hair and a scar across his jaw stood waiting. He wore a black coat and carried a plasma pistol at his side. Daniel Reed, he said. Rix, Daniel replied. You look terrible. You should see the other guy. Rix stepped inside and looked at the children. He paused. Are those the kids? Daniel nodded. They need help. Earth has the medical tech. And maybe the answers. Rix looked at him carefully. You're planning to take them to the homeworld? You know what they'll do. I know, Daniel said. But it's the only place left. Rix shook his head slowly. They'll never let them live. Not if they see what they are. Daniel stepped closer. Then we don't let them see. Not until it's too late. Rix sighed. I hope you know what you're doing. Daniel looked back at Shariel and the children. So do I. The earth rose like a giant blue flame through the cockpit window. Daniel stood at the front of the ship, staring at the world he once called home. It looked peaceful from space. But he knew the truth. Somewhere below, powerful people waited. They were not ready for the children. And they were afraid. Rick stood beside him, arms crossed. You sure about this? He asked. Daniel didn't blink. No turning back now. Shariel sat in the medical bay. Her hand glowed softly as she passed it over Keel's chest. The boy was stable, but barely. The changes in his body were accelerating. Nara held her brother's hand and whispered songs she barely remembered. Her eyes were calm, but deep inside, she knew what was coming. Daniel walked in and knelt beside them. "We land in 20 minutes," he said. "We'll be surrounded the second we touch ground." Shariel looked up at him. "What will you do?" Daniel reached into his coat and pulled out a memory chip. The one from Eli. The one with everything. "Tell the world the truth." Rix entered with a frown. "They're jamming every comms channel. We can't broadcast from orbit. And if we land at any official port, they'll take the kids before you say a word." Daniel stood. "Then we don't go to a port." He walked to the control panel and punched in new coordinates. Rix raised an eyebrow. "That's the old press compound. It's shut down. But it still has a working tower," Daniel said. "Public channels. Global reach." The ship turned, burning through the clouds. Alarms flashed. Earth defense detected them immediately. Missiles launched. Daniel flew low. Through clouds. Over mountains. Past cities. Fighter jets locked onto them. Shariel moved to the back, holding both children close. Daniel reached the old compound just in time. The ship crashed through the roof and skidded across the concrete. Sparks flew. Metal tore. The ship stopped just before hitting the central tower. They were alive. Outside, soldiers were already moving in. Shariel stepped out first, hands raised. Nara followed, holding Keel. Daniel climbed the tower stairs 2 at a time, memory chip in hand. Rick stayed behind, gun drawn. "I'll buy you a minute," he said. Daniel didn't waste time. At the top of the tower, he shoved the chip into the console and hit the global emergency override. All screens across Earth went black. Then one face appeared. Captain Eli Vorn. His last message played. "If you're watching this, I'm gone. But my children are alive. And they are not monsters. They are the future. Not because they have powers, but because they were born of love." People all over the world watched. Families in cities. Farmers in colonies. Soldiers in bunkers. Then the feed cut to live. Daniel stood before the camera. "I'm Daniel Reed. I fought in the war. I lost everything. But I found something worth saving." Behind him, Shariel and the children stepped into view. "They are not weapons. They are not mistakes. They are proof that we can be better." The military burst into the compound. Guns aimed. Orders shouted. But civilians had already taken to the streets. The world had seen. And they remembered what it meant to be human. A single voice came through the comms. "Stand down." A general's voice. The soldiers lowered their weapons. Daniel knelt beside the children. Keel smiled weakly. "You kept your promise," he said. Daniel looked at him. "I always will." Shariel knelt too. She rested her head against Daniel's shoulder. "You changed everything." Daniel wrapped his arm around them both. "No. They did.